Hi friends. Today I thought we could talk a little bit about home. We all have a home and we all grew up in homes, and they elicit a lot of memory for us. Good, bad, indifferent, hard, beautiful, um, stuff that brings about wounds and hurts, but also things that make us smile and keep us longing for more. So I have an image when I was a kid of home. I have many of them. I just want to share one of them. It was when I was around 12 years old, and I started doing people's lawns, started cutting their lawns at 12. And I remember this going on for several summers until probably I left for college. My family didn't have a lot of money, and so this was a way to make some extra money as a kid. I remember just those afternoons on sunny afternoons during the summer and going out and cutting my neighbors' lawns. Just the warm breeze, the smell of the fresh cut lawn. I mean, it was mindless work, but my mind was very active during that time. Because it was stuff I was used to, my mind could escape and my imagination would run wild, including just kind of talking to God and listening for Him, thinking through things, uh, growing in hope, growing closer to God. I mean, just all kinds of stuff was going on in my head and my heart in those summer mornings and afternoons and into the evenings. I always had to stop by dinner time and time enough to go home and take a shower and get cleaned up, and then we would sit together as a family and have dinner. Those are warm and cherished memories I have of home. I'm sure that you have all kinds of memory of home too. But even to this day, when I walk by a fresh cut lawn on a summer afternoon and feel that breeze, all of those memories come flooding back to me. That's the one of the functions of memory. But we have another kind of memory. We have a spiritual memory. And it's a memory that's not just ours individually, that comes uniquely from our own lives, but it's a corporate memory. It's a family memory. It's a memory that's passed on through our spiritual genes from one generation to the next, all the way back to Adam and Eve, who created our first home for us, but also ruined it for us, right? And this memory is that we have a perfect home, that we have a home with God in heaven. And everything that's built into us, including so many of our experiences, God uses if we allow Him to draw us home. We have a deep-seated, inherent longing to want to be with God in heaven. I love the Chronicles of Narnia. If you've ever had a chance to read the books, they're awesome. They're not just children's books. Many people think that they were written for children, but if you read them as an adult, they're anything but that. They're exciting and adventurous, and it's all about a metaphor for God and a metaphor for getting home. At the very end of the series of the Chronicles of Narnia, and Sister Miriam James points this out. I had forgotten this. There's this great scene where the animals and the children are coming to the threshold of the kingdom of Aslan. Remember, Aslan is the lion, and he's a symbol of Christ, and his kingdom is a symbol of heaven. So they're coming to the threshold, and one of the characters in this, he cries out, "Further up, further in," and they all start to race toward Aslan. And he keeps shouting this over and over, repeating it: further up, further in, further up, further in. You see, they had been on this adventure like you and I. And this adventure of life was filled with many distractions, many allurements and temptations, many mistakes and failings, many victories, a lot that occupied them and took them away, or could have taken them away from them getting to heaven and continuing to heaven, to their home. But here they are now at the threshold, and they push through so much of life experiences. And they, in fact, I've let those life experiences keep them focused on getting home, rather than focus on just Narnia itself and all of the busyness of Narnia. No, they kept their minds, that memory, that spiritual memory, on being with Aslan and being in his kingdom and restoring the kingdom to the way it was always meant to be for all the inhabitants of Narnia. So further up and further in they venture on until they eventually reach Aslan and they reach their home. It's a beautiful ending to a story that is our own, because this is our life. I mean, think about it. We all have a longing for home. Now, in a earthly human way, sometimes we long for instance, the way our homes used to be when we were growing up, or when we're traveling. We long to be at home and be with our family, or like this recent COVID-19 pandemic and quarantine that we've been in. We've been longing, as we've been at our family homes, we've been longing for our spiritual home. We've been longing for our church home, for our spiritual family, which is the church, right? And along the way in this journey, we have this spiritual memory of a truer home, a home that is never ending, a home that is perfect, a home that will provide all that we've ever hoped our homes to be able to provide. We have that memory and this interior compass that is an impulse that is driving us towards that home. Now, along the way, there can be many things that get us distracted, that tempt us, that can trip us up, that can detour us. That's human life, all the way back to Adam and Eve, and we certainly saw that in the Chronicles of Narnia. But it doesn't stop there. If we keep our focus on our true home, then we realize too that as we make our way back to our spiritual home, to the church itself, that God will provide for us as we continue our journey to heaven. And how does He do that? He provides for us in many ways. First of all, He gives us Himself. He gives us His body, His blood, His soul, His divinity. He gives us His life. He gives us a family. He gives us Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And that's what the church celebrates whenever it celebrates Pentecost. It celebrates the Father and the Son sharing their love with us, sharing their family with us, sharing their life with us. And that Spirit guides us back to Jesus. That's been that longing that we've missed while we've been quarantined in our homes, is to be with our brother Jesus and have Him lead us to our Father in that spirit of love, and to feed us, to be literally viaticum, food for the journey. That's what they used to, an old term they used to apply to Eucharist when we would, as priests, would go into the homes or hospitals of people and give them last rites. Eucharist was called viaticum, for along the way, food for the journey. So God gives us that. And how many of us have been hungering to be at home with Jesus in this way, and for Him to be at home with us, to literally to abide in us and to make His home with us. This is what we celebrate at Pentecost. I mean, this is what we hear in the Pentecost readings, for instance, when Jesus Himself, He ascends into heaven. And why? Because He has finished His mission. He's completed his mission, and now he's returning to his true home. Earth is not where he would remain forever and ever. His home is with his family in heaven. And he's gone before us to make a place for all of his adopted brothers and sisters, you and I, that he adopts when he takes upon us our flesh and our human nature. But once he ascends into heaven, then the Father and the Son share their family, share their spirit, the Holy Spirit, share their life with us. So we're not orphaned, we're not without a home. And on the day that we receive the Holy Spirit is the day that the Holy Spirit breathes the church into existence. How? Because the Spirit comes upon the first leaders of the church, the Lord's first disciples, his first apostles. And the breath of God comes into them, this breath of life and this breath of love, and the Spirit makes his home within them. And then, what do? They do exactly what Jesus did. They go out and they do the mission. And what is the mission? It's the same mission that was given to Adam and Eve. And that was to steward the garden, to steward God's creation. He gave us to one another to help us with his Spirit in Jesus Christ to get back to the true garden, the paradise restored, the heaven that redeems us and gives us all that we have ever hoped for, but never quite got in this life that has fallen. And so on Pentecost, then, the Spirit is sending us out to complete the mission across our lives. And that mission is just like the mission of the children and the other inhabitants of Narnia as they travel through the books of the Chronicles of Narnia. They want to be home with Aslan. They want to be back in the kingdom. But they know to do that, they have to fight. They have to fight to restore Narnia. They have to fight to overcome evil. They have to fight to not be overtaken by temptations and allurements and distractions of the days and the busyness and the stuff that occupies us. They had to fight not to make Narnia that had fallen their home and sit down and say, this is enough. They had to fight to remember that there's something more. And that's exactly what the first apostles did. Even as Rome came against them, even as the religion that they grew up with came against them, even as brothers and sisters and family members gave up on the promise of the Messiah, they never gave up. And why? Because week after week, they gathered in a church like we are. They received the Lord in the Eucharist. Their memory was stirred, and they remembered that they have a home that is more home than this home that they live in. And that gave them the courage, and that gave them the stamina, that gave them the perseverance, that gave them the focus, that gave them everything that they needed to be stewards and to go out into the world and draw all men and women of all nations into that one church, that one home, that spiritual home, that then together they could bring humanity to our true home. That's what we celebrate when we celebrate Pentecost, right? And that's our lives, brothers and sisters. That's who we are. We have been given the Holy Spirit, and we've been given a church by Jesus Christ, and we've been given a memory that is our own. And this memory is something that's passed on to us from generation to generation. And this memory is that we have a true, permanent, complete, and perfect home with God in heaven. And that we're to remember one another as we journey there. Not to settle on what this world offers, but to do everything with our brother Jesus Christ, to redeem it, to redeem others, to restore them, to call them through the church, and to bring them to Christ in the Eucharist, and to all of us to have him as food along the way, viaticum, so that we might one day reach the home that was created for you and for me and for us forever. Until next time, friends, welcome home.